Confused about how to plan for your retirement? Shawn Maloney is here to help. Shawn has created the Retire Happy framework that considers more than just how much you should save. Getting information and tools to preserve your financial future is minutes away. Welcome to the Priority of Retirement with your host, Shawn Maloney.
Welcome to another episode of the Priority of Retirement, where we delve into all aspects of retirement planning for a happy retirement. Today, we have Shannon Edwards, founder of TriStar Pension Consulting, with over 30 years of experience in the retirement plan industry. Sharon has dedicated her career to helping individuals retire on their own terms. She's a credentialed member and vice president and president-elect of American Society of Pension Professionals and Actuaries. Shannon's expertise in retirement plan design, compliance, consulting, and administration has made her a respected figure in her field. Outside of the professional life, Sharon's a devoted wife, mother, and grandmother who enjoys spending time with her family and volunteering for local nonprofits. So join us as we dive into a good conversation. Shannon, welcome, and thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me, Shawn. I really appreciate it. I love talking about retirement plans.
Well, good. That's our passion. I could talk all day long about that.
Me too. Definitely.
Well, congrats. We were talking beforehand. Congratulations on the president-elect there from vice president starting in January. So I know you have some good times ahead for you there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's one of my passion projects is volunteering with the American Retirement Association. So, and being involved in ASPPA as well. So it's really a lot of fun, and we make a huge difference in people's lives.
Love that. So tell me a little bit about TriStar. What inspired you to start TriStar and tongue-tied, what's that all about?
So actually, when I graduated from high school, I started interning at a CPA firm while I was getting my accounting degree. And I was supposed to do tax and audit and all the things. And instead, we got a really large 401k plan back in the day that it was balance forward, participant directed, and we had to do all the quarterly participant statements. So it had like 4,500 lives in it.
Wow.
So that's what I cut my teeth on. But I developed a love for retirement plans at that point and we started growing that part of the CPA firm a little bit. We grew to about 50 plans in 1992 when I took over the department. And then by 1998, I had grown the department to about 150 plans.
Wow.
And I really, I did not like the accounting world overtime. 300 hours of overtime a year in a CPA firm is really hard to do when you're also trying to raise a family. 100%. So I ended up purchasing my clients from the CPA firm and starting TriStar. And it's just been a wonderful ride ever since.
That's fantastic. I love to hear it. It's a good story. So from obviously we both focus on, retirement planning, and there's so many different ins and outs of retirement planning and things that could affect people's retirement. And with you specializing in what you do, kind of talk to our listeners here a little bit about why it's so important to participate in your company sponsored plans as early as possible and in general.
Well, I mean, definitely the earlier you start, the better, because you have more time for the contributions that you put in to grow and to earn. And really, I think one of the most important things people don't think about is the matching contribution. And even, my manager came to me when I was 18 and said, we have this SARSEP, and explained to me what that was. And it was an IRA-based retirement plan at the time. And she said, she explained to me why I needed to start saving then and not wait. And we didn't even have a match at that point. So I was one of the geeky kids that started saving early. But it's really paid off. And I can watch it not only in my own accounts, but I've, obviously preached this to my children as they've grown up with me, and how they needed to start. And it's paying off for them as well. So I think that participants need to understand, if you're offered a plan and you're offered a match, for instance, a lot of small retirement plans are what we call safe harbor. They're giving a dollar for dollar match on money that you put in. So even if you can only afford to put in what they're matching, you're getting 100% return on your money. You can't get that in the market. And not only are you getting that return, but then you have the ability for those accounts to grow over time and accumulate earnings.
100%. For a lot of the people we end up seeing, are typically later on in life. Of course, we see people that have started early with their 401ks or any kind of retirement contribution plan, and others that have not. And I love when younger people come to us and start getting advice. Right, I get excited about that. Right, because it's just so much easier to break it out over a long period of time versus being so much sacrificial later on, when people start thinking about retirement. And I get it, life happens and it's hard to set that money aside. But to your point, it's so critical to do that. So it's not so stressful later on, and
Yeah.
take advantage of those matches and the growth and the potentials that are out there, 100%.
Yeah, and it's crucial too. I think one disservice we've done in the retirement plan industry is, okay, so we're starting these contributions and just put in 3% or 4% or 5%. When really, if we start looking at what it's going to take for somebody to actually retire with dignity, they need to be working at some point to getting up to 10 or 15%, being able to put away. And I know that it sounds like a lot to a 20-year-old, right?
Right.
Putting away 15% of my income. But if they just start slow and bump it up each year a little bit so that they don't feel the pain, eventually they'll get there and they'll be putting away, more in line with what they actually need to retire at some point and keep their lifestyle that they've become accustomed to.
Yeah. And it's definitely, it might be boring, but it's the slow and steady race that wins this, right? It's not,
Right, exactly,
you
exactly.
know, for a lot of the, people that are out there looking for, a quick way to make their retirement. Well, that's not where it's at, right? I mean, there's so much risk involved in trying to do things shortcut ways or taking on too many risks where, starting young and the slow and steady race is where you're going to, get to. But for some people out there, some companies don't offer retirement plans, right? And there's certainly some things that you can do as an individual to start your own and get advice on doing that, whether it's IRAs and whatnot. But tell us a little bit about if someone's working somewhere and their employer doesn't have a contribution plan or whatever, what can they do to help advocate that or bring the awareness to their employers or anything like that?
I think it's really important that, that they start asking. We have a lot of clients who end up coming to us to set up 401k plans because their employees have come to them and asked for it. And I think as the employment market tightens up, I mean, it's competitive in every single industry now.
Yeah.
There's not a single industry that it isn't having competition issues trying to find good people who want to work. And I think as it becomes more competitive, employees are coming to jobs expecting the 401k plan or some sort of retirement plan vehicle as a benefit. I think something else that's really exciting for our industry is all of the states that are bringing in retirement plan mandates.
Yeah.
So there's several states now that either have mandates on the book or have them proposed, and they're moving that direction. And what we're seeing is employers don't want to use the state mandated IRA. And so they are actually moving more towards a private sector retirement plan and setting that up. So we're seeing a big push in that. And honestly, if you look at the numbers, there's been proposals in Washington to make it a national mandate. More and more states are making statewide mandates. If you look at the numbers, we have the potential of putting on hundreds of thousands of new 401k plans in the next several years
That's great.
because of the mandates and because employers, and it's in the news more. So employers and employees are both hearing more and more about it.
Yeah, no doubt. We talk a lot about we meet with some people, of course today, very few companies have pensions anymore, right? I mean, I
Right,
think it's
right.
like what 7% or something like that of companies that offer a pension. And so and people hear that and we talk a lot about retirement planning today is different than it was yesterday. It was different than it was for our parents and grandparents, where they had Social Security and they had a pension and that was pretty much it, right? Well,
Yeah.
now it's a little more on us, right? So yes, Social Security is there, but it's up to you to participate in things like 401ks. And if your company doesn't have 401k, obviously try to advocate for that, or at least start your own retirement savings somewhere. But it's more on us, versus just sitting back and retiring and then starting, to collect checks. It's just a different world. So, but I know you work with the ASPPA. So tell me a little bit about, or tell our audience a little bit about that. What is that organization about? What's your role in there? And how does that affect this overall retirement world?
So the American Society of Pension Professionals and Actuaries, I know that is a
That's a
mouthful.
mouthful, right?
One of the most important things that ASPA does, and their and just to kind of give you a breakdown, the American Retirement Association is kind of an umbrella organization with 5 sister organizations under it. ASPA, the organization that I'm a member of, is one of the sister organizations. There's another sister organization called the National Association of Plan Advisors. That's the financial advisor side of the organization. So typically in the ASPA side, we have people like me who are compliance administrators and who work with companies to make sure that their plans follow all the rules and regulations they have to stay in compliance. We also have a large membership of record keepers. So the people who hold the money, provide the websites, provide the quarterly statements. So that makes up a lot of our membership as well. But the amazing thing, I think, that we do, 2 things: education. That we are huge into education, educating people on the rules and regulations that that apply to these plans, but also educating people on why they should be saving, and educating on the NAPA side financial advisors to better serve their retirement plan clients and the plan participants. Then on top of that, ARA is a huge advocate for the laws that are being passed that govern these plans, and for having good laws that govern these plans that not only protect participants, but also encourage business owners to set these plans up, and protect the private retirement plan system. So that's one of the most exciting things that I get to do in volunteering for them, is working with their legislative relations committee, advocating for good laws, looking at things that are proposed in Washington, D.C. ARA gives a lot of feedback on proposals before they ever even make it to the point of being voted on. So it just, and they're kind of in the background and not many people know about them, but the job they do is just amazing. And it really, really, really changes people's lives and improves them.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's a lot of, I mean, being in the industry, we see, some of the things that are out there and being proposed. And of course, there's some needed, updates to modernize things and whatnot. And there's some good things that are being talked about. What's something that excites you that you've heard, that's potentially coming down the pike, or could be coming down the pike?
Well, I think one of the most exciting things, honestly, that has happened in the last few years was with Secure and Secure 2.0,
Yeah.
putting in a mandate for automatic enrollment in all new plans. So any new plans being set up, well, there's a few exceptions. So companies with under 10 employees and some things like that. But let's say, generally speaking, all new plans have to have automatic enrollment. What we've seen, so automatic enrollment, to explain it, traditionally in a 401k plan, we would offer the 401k plan to the employee and they had to fill out paperwork and opt into the plan, and then choose their investments. And what we would see, I think, is paralysis in having to make so many decisions. How much am I going to withhold? Do I really want to participate? What funds am I going to choose? What automatic enrollment does is now they have to opt out.
Right.
So we offer them the plan, and now they have to take a step to say, no, I don't want to be in the plan. And no, I don't want your match, versus having to opt in. And we've seen a huge increase in participation levels over the years since automatic enrollment was introduced in these plans, which is obviously, even if we're opting them in at a low percentage, a lot of people opt in at like 3% or 4%,
Yep.
Still increasing participation and, trying to close that coverage gap for participants and the savings gap.
Right.
Automatic enrollment has really helped with that. And so with Secure, we saw now there's a mandate for new plans to have automatic enrollment. So it's just something that we're automatically doing now with all of our clients, and we're explaining to them why it's important. But I really think that at one point when Secure was being discussed, there was a discussion of a mandate for automatic enrollment for all plans. And so even these grandfathered plans that we already have in existence. So I think that would be a really big discussion, a really exciting discussion in my eyes, And I know nobody likes the word mandate. Maybe we should call it something else, right?
Right.
Uh, Nobody likes that word, but honestly, it makes such a difference in the outcomes for these people that it's just hard to understand why we wouldn't do it.
Right. Yep. You know,
So
it's funny. We talk to a lot of people that, you know, we work with someone's parents, and we end up helping the kids choose the right things inside their 401ks and all that, you know, and we're happy to do that because we want to make sure they're one educated about a 401k and what it is, and you know, getting into the right plans. And I think, and I always encourage parents to educate their kids starting, you know, in high school and onwards, especially in college, you know, to start talking about those kind of things just so they're prepared for that. You know, so when they get that first piece of paperwork and they're saying, "What is this?" Okay, they just put me into this plan and this
yeah,
retirement
exactly.
thing. What is this? You know, and get them prepared for it.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the things that we've talked about a lot lately that the discussions are circling around is financial literacy.
Yeah.
Because honestly, we can talk till we're blue in the face about why they should participate in the 401k plan. But there's a problem, there's a lack of financial literacy
Mhm.
in high school or even lower, which so we're not only having to educate them on 401k plans, but then also there's a whole broader discussion that needs to be happening
Yep.
on financial literacy before they even get to being offered a 401k plan. It's funny, my son, my oldest son is 29, and we started talking to him about saving for retirement when he was 5 and he first got his allowance because he
Right.
got $5 a week, a dollar for every year that he was old. And a dollar had to go into savings and a dollar had to go to church and the rest of it he could spend.
Right.
And we would do that with Christmas money and birthday money. And
Love that.
he got into grade school and he learned about taxation without representation. And that's when he started accusing me of, Mom, this is taxation without representation. And he started telling my parents, like, she's taxing my Christmas money. And so people would give him gift cards. So and it's so funny when he finally got to high school and he took his financial wellness class and
Right.
he was like, oh, Mom, is my 401k plan, are those contributions going into Roth? And I was like, oh my gosh, you've been listening. Thank you. This is all paying off. When he got his first job in college as a waiter, he was like, Mom, how do I set up a 401k plan for my tips? I'm not old enough to be in their 401k plan. I need an IRA.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, start them young and they will figure it out.
I love that. But you hit it on the head. I mean, the financial literacy is a big need. You know, there's so many people that don't have that base skill set, you know, and it's unfortunate that in some states, or maybe sometimes it's even down to the county levels, you know, that they've taken some of that even out of the curriculum,
Right.
you know, in some schools. I mean, I know growing up, you know, that was just part of that was just a class that you had to take. You know, and now talking to all my kids are older as well, but some of them had that, and but the other kids didn't. And talking to a lot of people that you know, come to see us, you know, their kids aren't getting that either. So you know, I'm a huge advocate for financial literacy because even when we work with someone, step one is before we ever talk about planning, you know, let's get a gauge for where your financial acumen is. Right, is you can put a
Right.
plan together, but if you don't, if there's not the understanding, and I hate to use the word discipline, but kind of what it is, you know, for budgeting and all those kind of things, it could really have an effect on their retirement, you know,
Yeah.
managing that nest egg, and hopefully they get help doing that. But yeah, that's a huge advocate for that as well. Well, I know, you know, we've talked a little bit about, you know, laws and governance and all those kind of things and things that are potentially, you know, coming. Tell us a little bit about, I know you know, are on that side of things, to what are some of the challenges in retirement plan, you know, compliance administration, that you've dealt with?
I think one of the biggest challenges is for us educating the business owner.
Okay.
Um, and it's a challenge because most of our clients are small businesses and I'm a small business owner. So I get it. I'm
Sure.
busy. Like
Yep.
if you need me to sign something, my office manager has to stick it in front of my face and put a pen in my hand. Right.
Right.
And so the 401k plan is not their primary focus. Running their business and being profitable and, being able to pay their employees, that's their primary focus.
Sure.
So I think that's our biggest challenge is educating them on why we need the information we need to properly do our job. why we need it to be accurate when we get it. But what we have found is with enough handholding and enough education, once they get it and appreciate it, things go much smoother.
Yeah.
Obviously, Secure, I think we had 92 things in Secure that affected retirement plans. Like it
Yeah.
was so just pushing that information out to them and educating them on it and how it could affect them.
Right.
That has been a huge challenge for everybody who does what I do.
Sure.
Because those took actual like conversations about should we include this in your plan or not, and why, and how would it affect your participants. I think that's been a challenge. One of the challenges that we see too is getting good service for their participants.
Right.
Financial, employers finding financial advisors, because honestly, there's a shortage of financial advisors too, right? There's a
Sure.
shortage in every industry. There's a
Sure.
shortage of financial advisors. And so finding people who are passionate about retirement plans and
Yeah.
retirement planning,
Yeah.
there's even less of them, right? But if we look at how many plans that are going to need to be set up over the next several years, we're going to have people who want to service those participants. And in all honesty, most of the financial advisors that I know that work with plans are the only financial advisor those participants will ever know,
Yeah.
because
100%.
they're not out looking for a financial advisor most of the time.
Right.
They're, the dental hygienist probably does not have her own financial advisor.
Right.
Or, the guy doing welding in the shop.
Right.
And so honestly, the financial advisors who choose to work with 401k plans are some of the most important people in changing their lives and making a difference and helping us make a difference in the savings gap.
Yep.
Because they're the only people that these participants know.
No, that's a good point. And there's kind of this misconception out there, in the industry, that you have to have a ton of money to have a financial advisor, right? And that's not the case, right? I
Yeah.
mean, everybody needs advice, and I always tell people, let people in a little secret too. Financial advisors have financial advisors, right?
Yes.
Because it's when it comes to your money, people are you're tied to it. It's emotional, and you make emotional decisions and stuff. So even of us that are in the industry, bounce things across to other people to make sure we're thinking down the right roads. But you don't have to have a ton of money just to get advice, right? And to make
Right.
sure that you have the right plan. And to your point, speaking to the right people that can focus on retirement side versus other generic financial planning, right?
Right.
There's a definite need out there. And obviously, like I said, I could talk about that for days because that's what we're passionate about. But
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, one thing that we talk about as well with people is what's your retirement why? What do you want to do in retirement? Because look, we all worked hard our whole life, and we get to retirement, we want to enjoy it, and that's kind of part of the planning process too, is right? How are you going to fund that thing that you want to do? And we talk about generosity, we talk about all these different things. And I know you do some volunteer work and stuff, so I would kind of like to hear a little bit about your volunteer work and how it complements your professional life and how that looks for you going forward as well.
Yeah, the majority of my volunteer work is with ARA. And I do a lot of writing of articles for them. I do a lot of, well, obviously I serve on their board,
Right.
on the ASPPA board and things like that. It's funny because my husband and I were just talking about, when are you going to retire? And I was like, well, at least 10 years, we'll see. And he's like, and then you're going to quit working. I'm like, well, no, then I'll probably just volunteer more for ARA and see where I can fit in there and what I can help with. And I said, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to quit work. It just means that I might not own a business and have employees in 10 or 15 years.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Well, it's something you're passionate about, right?
yes, it
And
is.
that's key, for anybody that's thinking about retirement, thinking about what they want to do in retirement, whether it's an extension of what you were already doing or doing something that you've always been passionate about,
Right.
that you didn't have time to do in retirement. So I love to hear that's something that you're passionate about that you would even continue doing, afterwards.
Yeah, they'll probably have to kick me out of there to get rid of me.
I get it. I get it. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. Is there any parting comments or thoughts you would like to leave or share with the listeners?
No, you know what? I'd like to say thank you to you for focusing on retirement planning and being a retirement plan geek with me because it's funny. We always joke that there's no 401k emergency. We're not saving lives. Nobody's bleeding out on the operating table,
Right.
nothing like that.
Yeah.
But then I take it back a step and, we are changing lives and we are saving lives in this industry. And it's an amazing industry to be able to be a part of. I feel really blessed that
Thank
I
you.
fell into this industry and have been able to be successful in it and be able to help as many people as we've helped. So I would say thank you for focusing on it.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. It's, like we said earlier, it's one things that, we're passionate about. It drives us because it does, you're changing lives for the people, in their retirement years so they can enjoy retirement. Right.
Yes.
And, it is a blessing. And it's the most satisfying things are to work with people that don't think that they had enough or don't really have everything together and see some relief on their face when you put something together that gives them a plan,
Yeah.
and I relate it to, I always tell people this, we talk about saving lives. I relate what we do kind of in the doctor realm of things is you go to a general practitioner for a stuffy nose, right? But you're not going to go to a general practitioner for, a surgery that you're going to have.
Right.
They're specialties, right? So what we're doing, what you're doing, is very specialized in retirement world, things that we want to see people enjoy. So I appreciate all the work you do and what you do for the retirement community as well. Look forward to connecting and staying in touch. But thanks again for having you on, and everybody that's listening. Her information will be in the show notes, links and whatnot. Feel free to check that out. And here's to aligning your future. And everybody have a blessed day. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Priority of Retirement with Shawn Maloney. If you enjoyed the show, check out our reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more free resources to help with your retirement journey, go to retirewisepro.com or check the link in the show notes. You can also download a free copy of Shawn's book, The Priority of Retirement, or reach out to discuss working with him directly at retirewisepro.com. Thanks for listening.
Insurance products offered through the insurance business RetireWise LLC. RetireWise LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by RetireWise LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the insuring carrier. This podcast intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. RetireWise LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by RetireWise LLC. Guests of the Priority of Retirement are not affiliated with, nor do they endorse Shawn Maloney or RetireWise LLC.